thanks for downloading this episode from Teachers Talk Radio. You can find the full schedule and listen back to all our shows at ttradio.org. Enjoy the podcast.
Hello, I'm here.
Yes. Sorry, right. For those of you who are just tuning in, I have been outdone headwear-wise. In case you're not sure where you are, good evening. It's Tuesday. It's the Late Show with Hannah and Lucy. And as you can already tell, the marbles are, they've gone.
They've gone.
They have disappeared.
If you're listening on any other platform, do just pop over to YouTube because it's a spectacular event. I'm not going to lie. This is not going to last. I was already dancing in the intro, and this is hard work. So we talked last week about how my son's school was having a cake decorating competition, a fancy dress / headwear competition, a Christmas jumper day, a school trip, a disco, a Christmas movie night, and a non-uniform day.
Since last week. I'm sure there wasn't a disco this time last week.
Disco has been added. Disco is now next week. We've got that next Monday after the Christmas jumper day. Yeah, we're going for it. So I outsourced because I'm like struggling to survive life, and outsourced to Grandma, who was also, can you tell, she was a primary school teacher. Tell me without telling me you're related to primary school. This is what she has handmade. I'm just trying to get a bit closer so you guys can see the level of detail in this lovely, beautiful, for those who can't see, I've got a snowman on my head with a little homemade hat with a lovely carrot nose, buttons down the front. He is just spectacular, really. I don't know how my 7-year-old is going to cope with this on his head, as I'm struggling at a very ripe old age. But yes, I thought after talking about it, I ought to share. We have sacked off the cake because little man had a cold, and we just ran out of the will to live. But 1 out of 2 competitions, I don't think is too bad.
No, and it is phenomenal, and I think that it's. It will be a balancing act, but maybe it's a metaphor for teaching and life in general.
Very much so, Lucy. How did you know?
I don't know. Maybe it was just a sense from the conversations we have had in recent times. I'm not actually at home this week. I'm dog sitting for some friends of mine, and there is currently, so if there's a dog that appears in the frame at any point, it is not my dog. It is Milu, who is essentially my god dog. Because I do actually have godchildren in the UK, but I also have god dogs, and so I'm currently with one of those. So before we get on to this evening's proceedings, where we're going to talk about teacher festive wish lists, and I'm sure, much like me, Hannah, you've been asking around and finding out from your friends and colleagues what's on their wish list for Christmas and for going into 2025. But before we do that, we should thank our delightful sponsors, particularly John.
I'm so excited for this.
Who continue to be with us and who are who are in case, again, those of you who aren't watching us and just listening to the audio, Hannah is trying to now point to the banner with Snowman on her head, but gravity appears to be winning. So anyway, without getting distracted this time, John Catt are our wonderful long-standing sponsors, and we still have a fantastic discount code with disco. See, it's on the brain now. Discount code, which is JC. This is an indication of how this show is going to go. JCTTR2425, and that gives you 20% off the whole catalogue of books on there. So if you want to treat yourself as a teacher, or you want to treat the teacher in your life, please do go ahead and make use of that. I don't know how long we'll have it going into next year, but it is there, so make use of it while we still have it. We also have the wonderful Parent Kind, who I believe, was it Tom Rogers who did a show with them recently?
I believe so, yes.
can go back and listen to that. And they are a national charity representing parent views and voice and championing parental participation in education and school life. By fostering strong school-parent partnerships, we can boost student attendance, improve behaviour, and enhance academic performance. When parents actively participate, students thrive. Join the movement that's reshaping education for the better. Visit parentkind.org to learn more about them. And finally, going into 2025, Teachers Talk Radio are as busy as ever. We will, of course, be at the BET Show at the end of January, from the 22nd to the 24th of January. So if you're planning to head down to that, tickets are free, by the way, to anyone working in education. And, of course, Teachers Talk Radio will be there. A few of us will be representing, and we hope to have a chat with you. Come and see us. And we may or may not have some incredible props courtesy of
I mean, me and my mother as a duo, if this is what we can knock up in a week for a hat competition, just think what the Teacher Talk Radio prop is like that we may spend probably a good month making last year. It is just a thing of beauty, if I do say so myself. It's amazing.
We also have
cardboard and sticky tape.
We also have Teachers Talk Connect, which, although it's not happening until March, will roll around really, really quickly. That is going to be on the 1st of March in Manchester. And it's going to be one of our biggest events ever. We've already confirmed Mr. P, who you may or may not be aware of, but I think most people in the teaching profession, certainly who are UK based, will have heard of Mr. P ICT, certainly would have seen him on socials and all the rest of it. He is confirmed as a speaker alongside Kate Jones, who former TTR host herself, but also incredible author. So she will be there as well. And tickets for teachers can be found at ttradio.org, along with more information. So we hope to see you there. So lots and lots happening in the Teachers Talk Radio world, and hopefully more live events to follow on from those as well. Okay. I don't think I took a single breath when I did all that. So,
especially with me, like literally every 5 minutes trying to hold on to a snowman.
I mean, in case you haven't already realised, mine and Hannah's shows are a little bit chaotic, but
what do you mean?
But it's kind of who we are. I feel like we are a very real representation, where I think there's a danger in teaching. And certainly if you look at, and again, I know we've talked sort of in part about teacher TikTok before. We've talked about this kind of sometimes sort of more polished perfection, Pinterest perfect classrooms and all of that. And those, those people and those teachers are entitled to be the way that they are. No one's, and no one is shaming anybody, just to be clear. But there is also, for every kind of type A teacher, there are a lot of type Bs. And I think that we're just here to show you that, the struggle can be real, that, you can wear silly things on your head, that you can be a bit chaotic and still be damn good at what you do. So I think
I completely agree. I feel like I'm very much kind of identifying as this snowman kind of held together with sticky tape and just look quite good. But actually, if you look quite closely, I am a bit of a shambles, but I look good from the outside. It's fine. And I think that's the thing. I think teaching is a bit like that. It can be knocked up and all put together and not kind of with all bells and whistles and this perfectly bought thing from a store. It's this handcrafted thing of beauty when it's got right. And actually that kind of personalization and that kind of real hands-on kind of molded craft is just a thing of beauty when it's done properly and stuff. And it doesn't have to have all this expensive kind of bells and whistles perfect thing. And actually, like, the joy of teaching is just as important.
Yeah, imperfectly perfect, I think, is a good sort of indicator for where we are. So, Hannah, in keeping with our Christmas theme from last week, what did we even talk about last week? Can you remember?
We did our Christmas in schools, like your countdown to schools and what schools do in the countdown to Christmas. So if you missed that, do go have a look through the archives and have a listen to that. We talked about the good, the bad and the ugly on that one, I think.
Yes. No, we did. We did. It's all coming back to me now. And this week we wanted to sort of talk about teacher wish lists. And this can be, I mean, I feel like this can kind of go anywhere, but we sort of wanted to leave it quite open and think about it might be something as simple as, you know, a set of functioning glue sticks. I know the primary teachers, and actually even some of the secondary teachers among us, would just like to, you know, and also not the kind of rubbish glue, because I feel like there is there is a variation, a dramatic variation in glue stick quality, and no one can kind of wax lyrical about this as much as teachers. Everyone else just kind of looks at you a bit strangely and goes, what is the obsession with bloody glue sticks? And the obsession, dear listeners, is if you've ever worked with, and I do think this is actually throughout schools, whether it's primary or secondary, if you've ever watched a group of children try and not only stick kind of the right way or use the appropriate amount of glue, or just try and get a worksheet stuck into a book, which seems counterintuitive to begin with, it honestly is a sight to behold. And there is a significant, certainly at primary level, and I'm sure there are primary teachers listening to this nodding profusely, there's a significant amount of training that goes into this. Although by the time some of them arrive at secondary, I'm sure there are secondary teachers that go, did you not learn how to do this in primary school? And Hannah is trying to nod, but is mildly, you know, is restricted in her movements still, because the snowman is hanging in there for now.
Oh no, it's the same in secondary school. My thing is that they get overexcited to push the glue up and turn it so much that it's like halfway out the thing, and then they can't work, because I buy the cheap ones because they're so horrific. They then can't get them back down, and then put the lid on too early, and then they stick inside the lid because I got the cheap ones, and then the glue stick comes off inside the lid. I'm like, oh yeah, and is it bad that when you're saying that, all I have in my head is the Mariah Christmas song? All I want for Christmas is glue. So yes, thank you. Any teacher TikToks, you're welcome to steal that. There you go. I at one point almost brought myself to the point, I did see this on TikTok, where people bought sponges and put them in takeaway containers and then poured them with PVA, and the sponge absorbs the PVA and the lid keeps them airtight, and you take it off and the kids just push their piece of paper into the sponge and then it's all covered, and then they just stick it in their books. But I never A, found the time to do that, or B, had the money to have that many takeaways to do a whole class. But I would be curious.
Quite wet, isn't it?
Yeah, I am curious to know whether anybody's tried that and whether that works. But otherwise, the only other thing, I don't know, I've seen people name their glue sticks and give them little names. Maybe you can name them after the reindeers and make them Christmas themed. But I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. But I would certainly like proper, nice glue sticks that actually go back down and the glue stays in the glue stick. And also, every pack should arrive with like 10 spare lids, just to be on the safe side. And I would very much appreciate that. That's what I would like, definitely go on my Christmas wish list for sure.
Along with whiteboards and whiteboard pens. Again, always the rubbish ones. I mean, I don't know if you're much of a user, Hannah, in your teaching. I mean, I know that Whiteboard Gate has often featured on various social media platforms, and sort of the hills that people are prepared to die on never fail to amaze me. Whiteboard Gate being one of my personal favorites, along with Pen Gate. But I do think there is a place for them. But I would just, and again, with working with younger children, it's always a lottery as to whether, you know, someone's going to lose their pen, particularly the little mini board rubbers, which often just cut up bits of sponge. It's just, oh, no. So, yes, so those sort of mini supplies would be great. And I suppose, I mean, I've got to the point in various schools where I have been forcibly rationed.
I would be so curious. I guess this is my levels of an apprenticeship and business kind of brain coming out. I'd be so curious to know, like, whether a school if they buy more expensive like white markers and whiteboards, do they then spend less on them over time because they actually last longer and keep better as opposed to getting ruined? Or is it that it's just the children and they'll get wrecked just as quickly no matter the level of quality you buy?
I think it would depend, and I do think there is a degree of training and teaching children the value of things, and certainly having worked across a spectrum of schools, you'd think that in sort of more kind of private sort of international schools, kind of the schools I've been in more recently, that there'd be more of a regard for these things, and actually much the same, on occasions even worse. So.
And that's the thing. I think it was when I was covering Education Tonight. I was on there with the lovely Paul Hazard, and we were talking about when Pengate was about, and we were talking about how my school is one of the schools that give the kids equipment. So every morning we check the kids' equipment, and if they need a black pen, purple pen, pencil, and ruler, and if they don't have any of those equipment, we give them out as tutors every single morning. And it is one of those that they just don't seem to necessarily take care of that equipment, and certainly have when they get given then more expensive equipment, especially from the art department point of view, they then don't necessarily expect that because they just see it as the same thing, that something they're very disposable, that's easily replaced. But I also kind of get it from a pupil premium point of view. I think it's really good that, like, and as a parent point of view, that you don't have to buy those. But I do think it should be like a kind of once a week thing, and that you keep hold of it, and then if you don't, then you have to pay and replace it, or you have to, I don't know, something like. But I definitely think like it doesn't need to be replaced. Some kids, like I've actually tallied, and I had a series of kids that it was on a daily basis because they kept chewing their pen, but then it ended up being a mechanism. We just had to replace that, and they stopped eating the pen every day. But it's one of those things. Like whether we need to kind of look into how and the impact of doing that. It's one of those, isn't it, that I don't think we necessarily give value to things like we used to. Like when I lived in South Africa and I worked in a township, those kids were so happy and they had nothing. Those kids lived in little corrugated townships, and we'd take them down the beach, or we'd play football, or we'd go into the school, and they would just wanted to have their photo taken and dance, and they were just so happy but had nothing. And our kids have so much, and they're so lucky to have the privilege that they have, but there's very much like this kind of attitude of it's not enough, I want more and I want better. And I don't think we teach enough gratitude in school, and learning to be thankful and finding thanks in the little things. Like actually being able to get up and go to school. There's lots of kids in this country that in the world that can't, or kids that have to walk a certain distance, or after a certain age can't, or even if they're a certain gender cannot. And it's like we're so lucky that our kids have this opportunity on their doorstep. And there's a lot of things that need to change in education in this country, but it is a privilege. And I do think that our kids just don't necessarily see it as that way.
No, and I think that you only have to look at certainly recent articles, I mean, across the news spectrum, that talks about behaviour getting worse. I stumbled across an article today about a teacher, I think it was in Wales, who's had a knife pulled on him in recent times. I mean, those are extreme. I mean, that's an extreme example. And, there is a lot of pressure on teachers regarding behavior and things like that. But there's a lot more to it, and there's a lot more that needs to, as you say, needs to change, needs to be bettered. And I think your idea of, and I know we talked about, I think when we did our curriculum show a couple of weeks ago, where we talked about what needs to be included in the curriculum more. And we also talked last week about Christmas and the festive season being an opportunity to actually have teachable moments where we talk about, and it doesn't just have to be at, high days and holidays. It's this central thing about gratitude, I do think is really important. And of course, it gets naffed up on social media, and you sort of see kind of, various Instagram gurus talking about it. But actually, I do think there is something to that, and the appreciation of teachers as well. I think that would go up my wish list somewhat. A sort of, and I'm talking about from students and from colleagues and from the wider world as well. I learned a long time ago that validation in this job has to kind of come from a lot of it has to come from you. You have to, and it's difficult because, of course, we are phenomenal self-critics. I'm most teachers I know who are so tough on themselves, but it would also be nice just to have I'm talking about a well done. I'm not talking about a sort of, oh my gosh, you're so marvelous and wonderful, because that would be uncomfortable and weird. But just to kind of, hey, I really like how you did that, or hey, your display board looks great, or hey, just little things. And what's nice is that recently in a couple of lessons I've covered where I haven't done much apart from just because it's been subjects that I'm not particularly helpful with, like Portuguese, for example, but I have just kind of, helped them out where I can, given them the work, provided a bit of sort of light relief. And there are a couple of kids who just say, oh, thank you for the lesson, miss, when I've done nothing, but little things like that.
Yeah, when they say thank you at the end when they leave. Oh, I love that. My school does do a thing. I'm interested to see whether it happens this time because we've had a change of head, but we still did last year, where all our kids we have to provide them with thank you cards, and they have to write a thank you card to a teacher each term, and they kind of get put at reception, and then they get handed into all the teachers' pigeonholes. But it's just really lovely to kind of get those, and also see who the kids are writing them to, and see who the kids are connecting to. I think is quite interesting, because actually we've got a behaviour lady, and where if they end up in inclusion, and a lot of the naughty kids actually write her thank you cards, even though she's one of the most strictest people I've ever met, and is absolutely hilarious and comes down on them really hard. They actually really, really respect her, and the fact that she's the person they picked to write thank you cards is quite endearing. We've had a message in as well. Catherine has agreed. So the best thing a child or family could give me as a teacher was a card saying something they enjoyed about my classroom or my teaching methods, plus sending my students to school every day unless they are truly sick, encouraging my young students to be as independent as possible. And I had that actually a few years ago, because I also think, like, get your kids to write your teachers a Christmas card, like in the spirit of Christmas joy. Like, that's not a hard thing to do. It's just not forget their teachers. And I've had some lovely Christmas cards, but I've certainly realised in the last kind of 5 years of teaching, I'm certainly getting less Christmas cards than what I did at the start of my teaching. But like, I had a lovely one a few years ago. I say lovely, and it was like, I find life quite difficult. I find it really dark. I don't really want to come to school. But since you've been my teacher, like, art is the highlight of my day, and I actually want to come to school, and it's actually not as bad a place anymore because I get to be in your lessons. And I still have that Christmas card. And I'm like, I remember saying to that kid just before they left, I was like, I remember you writing me that card, and like, it still sticks with me. And they were like, what, did I? Like, they can't remember it. But obviously at the time, like, they've absolutely flourished since then. But at the time, that was generally how they felt. And I think it's one of those, like, getting the kids, because sometimes you don't realize, I mean, I knew I was having an impact, but I didn't realize the level of impact I was having. And I think just kind of making them write Christmas cards to teachers as well as to their fellow class and things is just as important.
Oh, most definitely. And I think because, I've got actually a cupboard full of mugs in my parents' house, and these teacher gifts are often kind of quite samey. And one year I got so much chocolate that I rang my mum and I said, don't buy Quality Street, don't buy Miniature Heroes, don't buy any of it. Other chocolates are available. Don't buy any of it. I've got it covered. I've got it covered. And of course, it's lovely to have that appreciation again from parents, but it's not the be all and end all. I think those cards, as you say, are so nice to have. And certainly, again, having worked in the environments I have in recent years, you almost get the sense sometimes that parents are trying to outdo each other. So, and that's a bit weird and uncomfortable, because of course in the UK, if something's over a certain monetary value, or it's not allowed to happen, is it? I don't know if that, I think, Hannah, you'd be more familiar with that
I don't
law.
know about ours. I've never had anything significantly that high, so I wouldn't know.
Whereas, yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's an actual thing or if it's a school policy rather than an actual law, but I know that I think there are certain boundaries, and maybe schools get to decide that. But in these international schools, I mean, it has lost the plot a bit. I mean, I've definitely been handed, I mean, it's from a class whip round, but I've certainly been handed Christmas cards that have had more than 200 euros in cash just stuffed in them. And that's a bit weird. That's kind of, it's nice, don't get me wrong. I mean, of course there's a weirdness to that for me. And I think
you tip in a restaurant, what's wrong with tipping your teacher?
It does feel a bit like that, but there is a discomfort to that because that didn't happen in the UK, and I don't expect it either. So, of course, I appreciate being able to treat myself, but of course, there are those children who still bring you those homemade cards, and those are the things that I keep and repin on I always have a little board in whatever classroom I have that's kind of a sort of a nonsense board. Yes, it sort of has my timetables and all that jazz on it, but it'll have kind of bits of origami, things kids have made, postcards from travels and things like that. So those little cards, and I know that there will come a time where I will have to part with some of this stuff, but that's the true spirit of Christmas, isn't it?
It is. I'm just muting myself in between me because my boiler's just come on. I have had it serviced, but it just sounds like someone's breaking into my house sometimes. So if you're hearing that in the background, I do apologise. I think as well, like my like little funny teacher gifts, like the little things, like quite often I get little pins for my lanyard or a funny like little sticker or something that the kids have genuinely seen and gone, oh yeah, that's Miss to a T. Like I like those kind of little things that haven't cost the earth that they just want to get. But also my old school, my tutor group, every Christmas they kind of all plucked together and all got presents for me, and they do like a little gift bag. It'll be chocolates and bathy bits. I think I mentioned one time about how my son was obsessed with bath bombs and would only get into a bath if I had a bath bomb. And one year they all got me a different bath bomb each. So I had like this loads and loads of bath bombs, different colours, and some had creatures in them, some had different things in them, and that was great fun. But I was just like, oh, like me babbling on about my son randomly one day, and they all remembered and decided to do that. So like it really showed that they cared. But also the teacher gifts, like I'm going to say that because we've got Mr. P. He's coming and doing the Teacher Talk Radio meet, isn't he?
Yeah, Connect.
Yes, but I saw him have this on his TikTok. But actually, my friend's now got it. So he had a tiny little violin, and you can pretend to press a button and it plays like a little tiny sad little violin. And my teacher friend's now got it, and I was just like, oh my god, it's amazing. And like, so whenever a kid tells her, and she is one of those that no matter where she is on duty, the kids will go find her and tell their sorrow stories about who's broken up with who, and I go and stand with her. I'm like, I don't know how you listen to this rubbish. She's like, it's fine, I've got this now. And when one of them says something like really tragic, like, oh my god, he split up with me, and she's like plays this little violin. Like, it's so funny. But I just think that there's a definite place, isn't there, for humor in teaching, and I think as long as it's done well and you've got a good relationship with the kids, I think those kind of things are great. Like, so yeah, that would be on my if I was doing Secret Santa. I'm doing a lot of Secret Santas, but I bailed out of the teaching one. That would probably be what I'd go for my teaching Secret Santa.
You know my feeling on that. I'm going to be a little bit materialistic for a second. And I mean, I don't have a classroom this year because I'm not full-time teaching at the moment. But one thing I always feel is missing from classrooms is soft furnishings. Like this is with the primary teacher. So, and again, I'm not talking about anything major here, but when you have like a little book corner or a little calm corner, as classrooms often do nowadays, I'd love, because I've usually bought my own because the things I've been handed in the past, who wants to kind of claim these, and they've sort of been pulled from a cupboard and are growing something that probably should not be in a classroom, or just are so ancient or just have no stuffing in them or whatever. So I'd like some kind of cushiony bits. I have a couple of plushies that, and I wish I could have had more. And my plushies were known as the emotional support plushies. So I had a boba one, and I have a burger one as well, because being Lucy Newburger, I had to have a burger one. But little things like that. And there's a lot to be said for a nice, I can tell this is how I know I'm over 30 as well, when, you know, the soft furnishings thing comes into my brain as a wish list thing. And anyone who is of millennial kind of generation, you know, when you think about if your parents still get you Christmas presents, mine don't, they refuse, which is fair enough. I am going to be 36 in January. But yeah, when you suddenly go from wanting sort of the latest thing to suddenly thinking like, oh, I'd love an air fryer or a Hoover or a vacuum cleaner.
I really want a smoothie maker.
Oh, yes.
Or a robot vacuum.
Yes. One of those Roomba.
Yes, so I don't have to hoover. It just does it for me.
Yeah.
That'll be my Christmas present.
Yeah, a nice carpet and some cushiony bits just to kind of make it, and some plants. You know, I had which I found.
Like, what? That's the thing. Like, why are classrooms so kind of plain? Because, like, I completely get that. Because my classroom, especially from an art classroom, I don't know why. Ours are always really on high stools. The poor kids are like my back, and I'm like, you guys are young. Your back should not be hurt. But like your stools are so uncomfortable. Miss. But no matter what school I taught in as an art teacher, I've always had high stools. So if I was going to do a Christmas wish list and redo my classroom, do you know what I'd go for? Even as an art teacher, do you know what I'd go for? Who's been to the cinema lately? I would go for the new like Odeon View, or other cinemas are available, reclining chairs with the swing round bench thing. I don't know whether you've seen those. So like the kids can come sit in, they can get comfy. When they're working, we can swing around their table and they can work on their table. If they need to get up, they can out swing it and out they get, and they can be comfy. They've got a good view. It would have like some nice IMAX screens, so they can actually, at the moment I've got very blurry, and the kids are like, I literally have to turn all my lights up and actually be able to see anything that's written on my board. And I'm like, they could see the board in beautiful IMAX. Like, we should just teach in massive cinemas, because that's essentially what you do when you go to university. Everybody goes in, you go into lecture theatres, don't you? Granted, they're not that comfy a seat, but you have big screens where you can see everything. And I think like if I'm going full no budget whack, I would like big cinema screen size classrooms. You can get a good 30 in one of those little one of the screens now, even with the recliners. Basically, that's how I'd like to see my classroom go. And that, like, but I could have the buttons. So if and a bit like Graham Norman's like red chair, when a kid really annoys me, I can just recline them back. And then if they're not paying attention, I can recline them back up and have some kind of little chart so I can I'm in control of all of their seats. Yeah, that's the dream right there.
Oh, brilliant. And I don't know if you remember, a few shows ago we had Simon, who was an inclusion teacher. We were talking about our neuroaffirming practice. Again, I mean, it's sort of not so much to do with soft furnishings, but I suppose it is, because what I was thinking about when you were talking is kind of, because school chairs are quite frankly dreadful. From, I mean, the kind of from the hideous sort of plastic things that they have to sit on in primary, through to the whole stool thing, and same in science labs as well. I think I don't know if it's for health and safety reasons or what it is, but I'd also like to be able to have all my kind of neuro affirming bits and pieces, whether it is the various fidgets, whether it is, you know, the bands that we talked about to kind of bounce your feet on under your desk where it doesn't annoy anybody, or just things like that. So, you know, to have, my dream classroom, I guess.
I just think, like you said, I think especially with like the plants and things, just make them more friendly, more homey. Like maybe like it is like, I don't know. I'd be curious to know if a more relaxed kind of style classroom would make the kids relax and work, or would it then mean that the behaviour would go down? It's one of those, isn't it? We're slightly more towards kind of not prison, but do you know what I mean? But it is that regimented thing that, like, where else do you have that regimented thing where you're told what to do every minute of every day? That's the only other place where that really happens. So it's like, actually, if we make it more like home and more kind of like a workplace where you do go, you chill out, but you work really hard, but you can sit at a table, you can sit with your mates, you can like chill out, but you are working, you've got to get that work done. Otherwise, you're not going to get paid. You're not going to get that next like contract and what have you. It's interesting. I think the snowman's got to go. He's just sliding all over the place.
Well,
Maybe I can make him like a parrot and he can go on my show. It will be double act. There you go. Yeah.
I mean, well, to the last 35 minutes, Hannah, I am pretty impressed.
Proud of that.
Yeah, have you got kind of the bit, because I like wearing kind of Alice band type things, but I always find that they pinch behind the ears.
Yeah. This is also wearing a child's headband, so that doesn't help.
Yeah, I'm also slightly concerned on a side note, because I've kind of used my two sort of Christmas kind of hairbands that I have. I had my little antlers last week, and then I've got this, which I've had for a long time. I'm sure I had Christmas tree boppers somewhere. So for our third and final Christmas show next week, I'm going to have to either find those or, I don't know, find an alternative to because I feel we have to continue the theme. We've started something now, and it just has to.
It will continue.
Yeah, have to see it through to the end. So yeah, the bits and bobs in the classroom, definitely. Coming to the staff room. And okay, this is going to be again the spoiled cow in me. I wish there was proper coffee in staff rooms. And I'm going to get judged for this, and I'm going to say it out loud, and there are going to be people who are going to be like, Lucy, you're a raging snob. I can't do instant coffee. I can't do it. I hate it. It's revolting. It's like muddy water.
See, I don't drink coffee, so I don't drink coffee. I'm weird. I would be curious. I think I vaguely do remember this going on Twitter a while ago, of like what teachers don't drink tea or coffee, and I think it was a very small minority of me, but we're a very special, unique little bunch. But I drink tea to be polite, but I can't drink coffee. But I'm going on my old Christmas wish list. I think it'd be quite cool to have some kind of smoothie station in the staff room. I could go in, have my fresh fruit, make myself a nice fresh like fruit juice, and I'd be all healthy, I'd be full of energy, and I'd look fresh and more, have a nice complexion because I'm eating nice fruit. And maybe some like maybe they could put in those special lights above where they kind of infrared lights or something, so I'm getting some more vitamin D, so I look less like I've woken up and rolled out of bed and look like death warmed up. I would just like to basically, I would like kind of the healthy LA vibe, but in a star room. You said I could go anything. This is a wish list. Like yeah. You
want kale smoothies? Are we getting Botox at lunchtime as well?
I mean,
or is that maybe a step too far?
I don't know. Then the kids can't see me frowning at them. That's the only thing. They might think I'm happy and smiling at them, and I'm really not.
No, I just can't move my face.
No.
I have dreadful frowns, but
I don't know, just something as a like, because this is the thing. I think like well-being is not like a bowl of fruit or some cakes at break time. It is genuinely kind of looking after your staff. Obviously, I do like, what if you were to do your teacher wish list on PPA? How would you go with that? Would you want like more? So you'd like one more a day, or one PPA a day, or would you like a whole day, like 4-day week? What would you pick for your dream PPA?
I think in an ideal world, I would teach 4 days, plan one. I mean, I don't envisage that ever coming to fruition because I don't know how it would work. What I've been when I was still full-time teaching here, I had 8 hours. I mean, on paper, I had 8 hours a week, which is in the UK, unheard of, split out throughout the week. And the way that was able to work is that a lot of the subjects were taught by specialist teachers. So, for example, I didn't teach Portuguese, art, computing, PE, music, I think there are a couple of others in there as well. Sounds like I didn't do any teaching. I did. I mean, and there's other stuff that kind of comes into that, but that's the only way that was able to work. Do I think that would ever, again, in a British state school, do I think that would ever be a possible thing? No, because the number of specialist teachers you would have to have kind of across the board would be ridiculous. But no, I think I'd go for the 4 on, 1 not off, but 1 to kind of get it all done. Because having it, and again, I think this is my ADHD brain, I think the fact that it's kind of split up all over the place, and with there kind of being the downside to it was not being kind of enough workspace, and often specialist teachers will be teaching in your classroom, so you get kicked out. And so by the time you find somewhere to sit, made your tea, contemplated your navel for 20 minutes, it doesn't really, to say I use those 8 hours a week productively, if I did have them, would be an out and out lie. So I think having just a day would work better for me, but I don't know about you, Hannah.
See, I've got a weird timetable this year where I have 4 of my frees together, but we have a 6-period day. But I have a Tuesday where I don't basically teach all morning. Granted, I have lots of meetings, so it is a bit start, stop. But I teach all day Monday, I teach all day Friday, and I'm a bit exhausted by the time I get to Tuesday. I'm like, I don't have the motivation to sort this out. I prefer it a little bit every day so I can kind of make sure I'm ready for the next day. I can't think that far ahead to try and plan the whole week in one go. I do prefer kind of a little bit every day. But then also I have done, when I did a long time ago, I helped set up a new school. So I went in the second year that it was open. So they had 7s, 8s and 12s and 13s. So I only worked 4 days a week for that year. And actually that was quite nice. I mean, occasionally I did supply on the other day, but it was quite nice just doing 4 days a week and having that extra day. And I think if you could do that day, and like you said, if you've got that day and you're fighting over where you're going to do that work and you're having to move every hour and things like that as people change rooms and things, I think that's really counterproductive. But actually, if you could have that day at home and be productive at home, I think I would be far more productive, albeit that I will miss the printer and the photocopier. But I do think that actually if I could take myself out of that environment without people coming and knocking on my doors, without the millions of emails, then that would be better. All that would go on my Christmas wish list, that like emailing about everything would disappear, and actually like just the emails that are relevant to me, like have a little email fairy that just deletes all the emails that aren't meant for me, and also to have some kind of miracle fairy that when there are really important emails for me that I have accidentally read in a certain point, that they will then pop up and remind me that I have not replied to that because I read that in a break and I didn't have enough time to digest it, and then my ADHD brain has forgotten that I read it and have not replied to it. So I'd quite like some kind of magic fairy that takes all the emails that I don't need, so I don't need to waste my time and waste my hours of my day reading the hundreds of emails a day, and but also has, I mean, I flag them, but then I forget I flag them. So just something to help me remind them. I mean, I have been at a school that does like a weekly bulletin and people added everything in there, and that massively reduced kind of emails down. But I certainly think it's something that schools can kind of reduce and really look into doing better, I think.
Yeah, I actually, before we went off on our, or before I don't know if I want to revisit the staff room thing. Maybe I'll come back to that. Maybe we'll put a pin in that. But something you mentioned, what is I mean, okay, with printers and photocopiers, I get it. The amount of paper and the amount of wastage in schools is, and certainly in schools I've been in, is outrageous. It is. However, I'm about to contradict myself as usual. Why is it that there is kind of one or two, and so you are often miles from any of them? Why do we do this? I don't need my own individual printer, but certainly per department or per, at least maybe per key stage. I don't know, but it is ludicrous that the kind of the fighting for the one or two that happen to be in these schools, particularly for a subject like yours, I imagine, as well.
I was gonna say, when I was at my old school, I had my own printer in my own room. I was in printer heaven, and because I used it, and like mainly it was just my department, it very rarely went wrong because we all kind of know how to use a printer effectively. Unlike, I don't know, some random people that always seem to, I swear it's maths, but like I I don't know. I miss drastically having my own printer in my room and being able to adjust that and use it effectively, especially like from a GCSE A-level point of view. I was always photocopying pages out of kids' book. Now work on top of that. Now print that on. They now want to do an artist. Now look at this technique. Now you use this worksheet. Like it's always changing. It's never kind of static. And I do think actually, if you kind of had one in each, if every teacher had a printer in their room, if we're going printer wish list, then I do think actually it'd make better teaching, because actually if you do a lesson and the worksheet you printed off is too hard and they need some scaffolding, or something's gone wrong and you need to change something, or actually they all finish it and you need to add in something else, being able to just quickly print something out and spread it across the room, literally as soon as you realize that first kid is there, or a couple of kids need that help, that is so much quicker and more efficient than then having to kind of coast and fill a gap or kind of do it. So I do think there are some real benefits to education to have our own printers, but I also appreciate that is quite a lot of money. But also there may be, that's the thing, ours never really went wrong because we were the ones looking after it. Would it really, other than the actual machines, it's not going to cost that much more money. And talking of machinery, I'm going to go back to oh my gosh, I can't even remember who it was. I had a lovely chap on, and I know he's been on Adam and Brent's show as well, which is where he talked about this. But I had it's going to really annoy me that I can't remember his name. But I had a chap on that's not teaching anymore, but he used to be a head teacher, and his daughter unfortunately got anxiety and stopped attending and things. You know who I'm talking about now. And yeah, he was very good. But he was talking about how actually all schools should get ventilation systems in their schools. And actually, if it wouldn't cost that much if you actually did it, and especially if something like COVID was to happen again, the clean air being ventilated into every classroom meant that the attendance would go up because kids wouldn't get ill as much because the air is being cleaned and ventilated, and same with teachers. And I was like, actually, this makes complete sense. And he said there is actually companies ready to go that would sponsor it and do it. It just for some reason isn't kind of all falling into place. And I know he's kind of trying desperately to do it, but after listening to him on Adam and Brent show, so if you want to go digging through the archives, go find that one. But it's in there somewhere. But it was just so fascinating, and I'm like, actually, why are we not protecting our teachers and making sure we've got clean air, we're not breathing the same air as because I probably teach about if I've got a 6-period day and I'm seeing all those different kids. I'm just trying to do the math. 5, 10, 15, 20, 21. I'm teaching 150 kids, different kids a day. That's 150 different lots of air that I'm breathing in. I drink my powdered greens. I am good. I drink, I have a garlic and ginger in abundance purely to keep myself going. But
and the chili.
And all that. But it's actually, why are we not protecting our teachers a bit more and having nice, clean air in our classrooms? And same for our students. If the government want attendance to go up, and I appreciate that, and that is really important. And we also need to work on our students' mental health. But also, if our kids are getting sick all the time, it's really hard for them to be in. And especially thinking about my niece. Obviously, she had a lung condition. She would spend most of winter in and out of hospital, has portacath into her lungs, and would quite often have antibiotics straight into her system because she was constantly getting ill from school. But actually, if the school had ventilation, she would get ill far less and be in school more often. So if we're going money is no object, I'd like some clean air, please.
Yes. So, before you know it, you're going to be having those IV drips in the staff room as well. You can get them.
Yes. Let's have some of those. We to deal with period 6. I would love a little IV drip at lunchtime to deal with period 5, period 6 on a Friday. Yes, please.
Yeah, because I know that you can get them for hangovers. Now, obviously, nobody is going into school hungover.
No.
No. But, just to kind of, a bit of recovery, or a bit of sort of, I mean, I don't know how you'd facilitate this, because you're not going to administer your own IV, but this is in our little dream world that we're living in. And I've actually got a beautiful visual of the staff room of yours, Hannah, that's just kind of, it's softly lit. There's nice furnishings, like we've already.
I mean, if there's somebody in there giving us massages as well, like a little maybe a little foot massage, little hand massage, little neck and shoulder massage, or even one of those electric ones. You can, like the mall ones, you pay like £1 and you sit in the giant chair. Maybe the staff room should be filled with those, but you get unlimited tokens. We'll just go in at lunch and have a little shoulder massage. Like, you'd feel well more energized and ready for work. Like, this is what teaching should be. Like, the real.
We just get the hairdresser in as well, and
yes, a nice little blow dries, so you feel all fresh for the afternoon. They'll pick me up.
Imagine students' reactions.
We'd all need those little eye masks on, like to go in the bags and break like the little eye patches. Just, you could have unlimited supply of those in the staff room to try and reduce the look of bags and tiredness within the staff room. Unlimited supply of magnesium supplements, so every teacher can have a good night's sleep when they go home. Just
what about when you go to posh well, I mean, not that I do this with any regularity, but like a posh spa or something like that, and they always have one of those water dispensers. Some days it's got cucumber or lemon.
Some little like meditative music. So it's a really nice, maybe just to have a little quiet room that if you want to go and sit in the meditative room, like if you have PPN, it's been a stressful day, you can just go sit in there and meditate, and it's just like sounds of water and jungle, and you can just escape and relax. I mean, maybe I'm going too far slightly, but like, actually, if you think about it, you're like, oh, actually, I would feel better. I would teach better if that was my life. Like, I genuinely would. I think it's like, if it's basically like, if I don't know how real they are. I've watched lots of rubbish American telly shows, but quite often they're like pretending to be based on like Google headquarters or Apple headquarters, and you imagine what they would look like and kind of all that, how that is and stuff, and that would. Like what would the teacher, we're kind of basically doing the teacher equivalent, isn't it, of like what that space would look like if you generally felt looked after and cared for and things. And talking about looked after and cared for, I've finally become wise this week. I've had a wisdom tooth come through. To be fair, me and my mum were discussing this, and I thought, I swear I had all my wisdom teeth, so I don't know whether I've got an extra one. I've had 5. Like, I'm so wise, I got a bonus wisdom tooth. I don't know, but it's possible. Let's face it. But my tooth hurts. My whole face was swollen. It still is on the inside. It's horrific. But I called the NHS. I could not get a dentist appointment to save my life. But also, I knew I had my kids' food assessment. I knew I kind of needed to be in. I needed to do that. Like, I was trying to call in break times and lunch times and try and get the odd appointment. Like, I called at 8 and I was answered the phone by 8:05, and all the day books were gone, and trying to call all these dentists. And I was like, oh gosh, like, I'd just love to be in a job where I could literally call up and go, I'm sick, I'm sorry, I'm not coming in. And that was that. I was just sick. I didn't have to have that guilt of not going in, have that guilt of not being there and supporting my students, that things easily could be moved schedule-wise from one day to another, and that we as teachers put our health first, and that there isn't this kind of, was it you that I sent the I don't know whether it was yours, the Instagram video of a guy who was like, this is how to be ill in a normal job, and this is how, there was a woman in hospital with tubes in her mouth, coughing and saying that she was really sick, and he was like, do you think maybe you could come in this afternoon? They normally discharge people from the hospital in the morning, like maybe you can come in later, or can you make sure that you're with this person will probably cover your lesson, can you make sure you send full lesson plans to these people, and then can you check in where they get up to and then fill up like the next bit, and make sure you do this, and make sure you contact this person, can you CC in this person as well, and make sure you're caught up. And it's like, what other job where, and I've had that, because I was in hospital with a pulmonary embolism, and I was literally took my laptop because I knew I might be there for a while to write all my lessons and send them all in, even though I literally almost died, and I still took my laptop just in case to make sure I could write my lesson plans, and did write my lesson plans and send them from hospital to school. And I'm like, it's just, we should be treating teachers like have a nice relaxing massage at lunch and treat them to nice food. And I think that as well. I think if budget shouldn't be an issue, having food for teachers in school, like we work hard enough. And actually I've heard of some schools do this where they give teachers free lunch, but they have to sit in the canteen and eat it, and they go and sit and they mingle with the kids and go sit on the table, or even if there's a table of staff in the canteen, the behavior is just so much better. And I do think that kind of atmosphere, and but also just taking that pressure on teachers, especially with the cost of living crisis, that there is a warm meal for you to have at lunchtime, and we want you to sit down and eat it and actually have that time to do it, is also really important. Because I worked through my lunch today. I didn't eat my lunch. I haven't eaten my lunch. Granted, I had kids cooking me food, so I had to eat questionable food and some lovely food. But still, like, how many jobs would you be expected to work for your lunch, or not sit down and have your lunch, and not be, and like, I just think providing lunch in that kind of, in a school, would be a positive. There's no negative to it, really.
Yeah, no, I agree. Just going back to the hospital and the sickness thing for a moment. I mean, again, that every time you tell me that, it just blows my mind that you were there, you know, quite literally on death's door and still sending your stuff in. Often
I don't understand why the doctors didn't believe that I was that ill. No. I'm just a teacher. This is ill.
This is the problem. I'm the problem. But a teacher actually who teaches at the school I'm currently at the moment, she mentioned this. She said, how am I supposed to foresee if I'm sick? So in providing cover, you know, I can't predict it. You know, sometimes, okay, I can feel, you know, it coming on. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm just going to write the cover notes. But this idea that, you know, in most other professions I'm aware of, if you're sick, you are off, you are left alone, you are sick. You know, depending on, I mean, sometimes people will do emails and all the rest of it if they're not feeling that, you know, but my argument is if you're well enough to be sending emails, then, but I don't, I mean, well, it depends. But, you know, this whole planning cover thing, I would like a situation where, you know, and this teacher was saying to me today, she's like, I literally have a packet of work that lives in the cupboard. And, you know, she teaches across multiple year groups. And she said, okay, is it great? No. Is it going to kind of see them through? It's kind of similar to what some people did when we were kind of back into school post-COVID, but not everyone was back in. And some parents were, of course, apprehensive about it. They got packets of work. That's, you know, that's
I have that in my schemes of work. For every term's worth of work, I have a break in case of emergency lesson. So either it gets put on the end when you're a bit knackered, if you haven't had to use it, or it's a lesson that can literally be printed out and taught by anybody. And it's one of those that it links in, but it doesn't matter where it fits within the sequence, but it's also very easy. But the kids also get it because it's to do with what they're doing. So they're not just doing something random. But I just think it's really important to have that scheme, because the odds are you're going to be off or need cover or be on a course or something. So do kind of have that preparation. I have had it once. I remember once, like, literally, and feeling guilty for it, literally emailing off my phone whilst I think I had horrific food poisoning and was vomiting my guts out, and was literally messaging going, my head is down the toilet. I'm sick. I can't write cover. I haven't. Every time I leave the toilet, I am sick. I cannot. And I just cannot do it. But like, even I was literally trying to explain, like I felt like I need to explain in detail as to why I couldn't. I literally generally was still like, I was like, I literally been sick for hours and it's just it's not happening. It's not happening. But like, even then I felt guilty. It's just, yeah, it's not normal.
Yeah. So on our wish list, I think we can put, you know, the
magic cover fairy, that we don't have to write cover. We're not made to feel guilty for giving cover. The kids don't end up doing absolutely rubbish and it being a waste and then having to work twice as hard to catch them up. Like, it just, like a magic cover fairy, please.
Accepting your limitations and that you will get sick. And it is really interesting, because since I have stopped being full-time, and again, touch wood, because I guarantee this will backfire on me as soon as I say it, haven't been ill. And I'm still I'm not in school as much as I was, but I'm still at least 3 days a week, I'm still in school across multiple classes. But because the most of that pressure is gone, and it's obviously not as intense. And I do think, being in German environments, you will get bits and pieces, but adding to the stress on your body, I've gone from getting in one spectacular month, and I've talked about this a lot on TTR before, in one spectacular month, I had shingles followed by my second dose of COVID I had shingles. I recovered just enough to take kids on camp. So did overnight camps, a couple of nights overnight, came back and was floored by my second dose of COVID, because my body had just given up. And it was the COVID was more horrific than when I first had it. And I've had it once more since. But touch wood, no COVID this year so far. I'm on having had it that I know about 3 times. So, fingers crossed. Although famous last words, we'll get to you next week. We're like, Hannah, I trust myself.
But on that note, I think on my teacher wish list, and I know some schools do this, is free winter flu jabs for their staff. Ooh. And I'm like, investing in that is not a lot of money. I know my school had it, that we obviously had them in and the kids all had them. And then there was an option for staff you could pay and go have one whilst you're at school. So you don't have to go and try and do it in your own time. So that's good. But I do think schools that go, literally, we're going to have this for staff at this time. It's free. Go have it. It's also really, you're investing in your teachers because you don't want them all to be off with flu. So it's a win-win, that one. I think that's that one's kind of an easy one on the wish list to do.
And I suppose this is in keeping with the wish list, but I want to kind of change tack just slightly, just as we ease into our last half hour. We're obviously both big on well-being. We've done shows on it. We talk about it a lot. It somehow finds its way into most of our shows, to be honest. We managed to shoehorn it in there. But Christmas holidays is always, I find, the one, because it's a long run up until, yes, okay, you get half term. I know some schools do 2-week half terms in October, but it's, between Halloween and Christmas, and I say it a lot, there is so much going on. Your son's school, case in point, and teachers are wrecked by the time they get there. There's reports in there as well. Some schools are still cleaning with parents' evenings. Some schools are unfortunate enough to have Ofsted. That decide to, anyone who gets that call in the next kind of week or so, I just think is absolutely barbaric. But it has been known to happen. So by the time you are getting to 21st of December, often as it's been in past years, but I think it's slightly earlier this year.
I'm 18th, but my son at school is to the 20th. But some are going late.
Oh gosh! And what would your advice be, or what do you, even better than that, what are you looking forward to doing in the Christmas holidays that is absolutely naff all to do with work?
Oh, that is a good question. I'm looking forward to having heating on. Like, my school is on a massive budget saver, so the heating goes on in the morning and then it's off by the time I kind of sit down at my desk, and then the day progressively gets colder. So I'm looking forward to being warm and not having to wear my coat during the day just to stay warm.
Is that legal?
Well, there's a deficit, isn't there? Everyone, like, the cost of living crisis, like, it's a massive thing. But I do get it. It's weird because some of the other classrooms have got, and it just seems to be I'm in the wrong part of the school with the oldest heater, and it don't. I'm in the expensive part. I'm just dealing with myself. But just jump around, kids. It's fine. But I don't know. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to being warm. And I know, like, this thing, I don't begrudge that. This is where they can save it. Like, the week when they did put it on and they left it on for longer, everyone was complaining it was too hot. So, like, there isn't a win. We're a moany bunch. But, like, So I'm looking forward to that. I love like a good hot chocolate. But again, I think that's something that you can do in school. I don't know. I am doing a touristy thing. Me and my family are all going to London for my mum's birthday, so that will be really nice. And doing that kind of thing. A lovely little lie-in. Praying that my child doesn't wake up before kind of 7 o'clock will be quite nice. And I don't know, like being able to be outside during daylight hours, because obviously at the moment it is that thing that it's dark when I leave the house, it's dark when I come home. Just being able to go out for a lovely little walk and get some vitamin D and be in the daylight. By me, actually, no, one of my favourite things to do near Christmas is by me, over by the coast, we have a thing where the seals come and breed, and you can go down there and you can see the baby seals. And no joke, I think one year they had on the board that they had over 1,000 baby seals on the beach, and they're just these little fluff balls. And we go and watch them every year and go for a little walk along the beach and go see all the seals. So I will be doing that at some point.
That's so cute and storybook-esque. I'm not the world's greatest Christmas fan, as we know, but I do love to bake at Christmas. And I love having time for that. And I have been known to do my own mince pies from scratch. Particularly as I can't get them here in Portugal. So I do tend to make a big fuss about it when I go home. I'm also the weirdo that actually likes them. And I'm that weirdo that really likes Christmas pudding. I don't know how our listeners and our fans feel about where we are on team Christmas pudding or no Christmas pudding. But my mum is making that this year with a whole orange in it. So I don't quite know how that works.
See, as a child, my mum used to wrap up coins or treats and hide them in the Christmas pudding, and it was all about finding your treat. That was the best bit. It was all wrapped in foil. You had to find like 20p in your Christmas pudding.
But just don't break your teeth on it.
No, it was a lottery. It was a good game.
Also, how do you feel about Brussels sprouts?
I think if they're done right, I like them with a bit of bacon, maybe a little bit of cream in there. We're good to go.
Yeah, I am a fan of the sprouts. So yeah, I'm looking forward to a lot of food. Like, I think, again, in living abroad and going home to mum and dad, I do, but I think people who, most grown-ups, why am I talking about myself like I am a child? most functional, normal people who go home at Christmas, I do think revert a bit into child mode. I think there is, there is an aspect to that. I don't know if it's kind of exacerbated because I don't see mine for longer periods of time than other people, but so I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to Christmas TV.
There may be a certain Christmas movie that I am savouring for when I finish school, which has come out with a certain Chad Michael Murray that is a Christmas stripper that I'm quite looking forward to, that I have just admitted to. But I've been told it's a very, very good festive film. So yes, that one is going on the list.
There's new Magic Mike?
Basically, yes. I think it's Poor Man's Magic Mike. But I'm also very much looking forward to having a bit of quiet time and maybe reading a book. And if you are too, maybe you need to treat yourself to a new John Catt book and use the Teach Talk Radio discount code JCTTR2425 for 20% off. Or maybe you are still panicking for that Secret Santa gift for somebody in your staff room with that 20% off. It comes into budget. Go and treat themselves to a new educational book. Or maybe you're a member of SLT and you want to surprise your staff with some new educational reading in the new year. What a way to start. If your school, if they came back and the start of January all miserable and they've been gifted a new book to read. I mean, that would cheer me up if I came back. I'm like, oh, my SLT care about me. They have bought me a new educational book. So whichever way you want to gift the knowledge of good education, then you can pop over to John Catt Educational to find those. And also, like, I know it's that kind of year, isn't it? Like, I've been a moany parent on here, but also I do think good relationships between kind of staff and parents is really important, and this time more than ever. So make sure you go and check out Parent Kind and see what they're up to over at parentkind.org. And they have loads of stuff in kind of building relationships and getting parent participation within education and school life. And I think that's so important. And I think that should be a lot of schools' New Year's resolutions, to kind of get parents involved and get them kind of engaged in school, because actually if you can get a really good parent group that are really happy and engaged with the school, then it does help. And even though I've got to make this for my child's parent group and pay for the privilege to help fund the school, it is quite a bit of fun, and actually it helps the school. So I don't mind doing silly things to help my kids' school, because we all get that the budget is tight. So actually if you get a great parent group, you can do the little things that you can't really afford in your budget by getting them on side. So go check them out and see how they get on. But maybe your New Year's resolution is to do more CPD. Then you could come and join us over at BET and join us at the BET conference over in January. Maybe that should be your New Year's resolution. Or there's the Teacher Talk Connect, which is out in the 1st of March. And there's some great teachers on there, and you can visit TTR or I'm going to go again. ttradio.org. I was so close. I was doing so well to get your ticket today, because the tickets, even though it's not until March, the tickets are out already, and it's there's already such a great lineup. I feel like we're doing like with Glastonbury, kind of launching these guest speakers. There's more great ones to come. So yeah, go get your ticket early doors and get involved in that, or get your slip whilst you're SLT in a nice festive mood. Maybe slip that application to disappear out of school a day early and travel if you want to go and do that one in person and enjoy that, because
and meet some of us in real life, some of your favorite.
I mean, what wouldn't you want to? Why wouldn't you want to meet these two crazy loons?
I think people are probably thinking, gosh, are they actually that mad in real life? Yes. I think my students would say I was mad as well. I would like to say that, maybe they wouldn't, but I was trying to some of the kids were like, why have you got balloons in your classroom, miss? I was like, because we filled the balloons with plaster and then wrapped string around them and left them set, and we made like mini pumpkins out of them. And they were like, what? And I was like, and it was a whole scientific experiment, because we realized we couldn't just funnel the plaster into the balloon. We had to fill plastic bottles with plaster and then put the balloon over the top and then tip it over, and then it would go in because of gravity and the air moving at the neck. Then that would actually fill the balloon, and we could then knot it. But you have to do all this within the time before the plaster sets, otherwise it's a very heavy bottle, it doesn't work. But the science in art is amazing. But yeah, so when my kids literally go, I want to do this, and I'm like, how crazy can we go? But that's the thing. I think you've got to enjoy being in the classroom and doing these things. And I think you've got to have a little bit crazy to be a teacher, I think. I would say. Yeah. So we've got our movies, we've got our hot chocolate, we've got what else? Food, Brussels sprouts, not dipped in chocolate though. Don't do that. Oh, I tell you, and this is my non-teaching related tip. Those, and again, other chocolates are available, but the kind of Lindor ball things.
They're my favourite. If any student are listening, that's the one.
That's the one. Yeah, that's on the teacher wish list. I like the original ones, but there are a whole variety of those. If you're not a coffee drinker, Hannah, so you're not going to appreciate this, but if you have, make yourself coffee at home, have a coffee machine, or even just like your little cafetiere, in your coffee, pop in one of those Lindor balls, and it makes the best little mocha. And I have that.
Do that in a hot chocolate and be just as happy.
Well, there you go. And I do that because my mum is a big fan of her Christmas chocolate of choice. So when they casually disappear, it's because they've gone in my morning coffee. And again, one of the privileges of being at home and eating your parents' food is that there are just Lindor chocolates lying around at Christmas.
My mum does this amazing thing. She gets like a what they call the like polystyrene type balls that you normally do flour arranging in, and puts it on a spike in a pot and then we'll stick lint balls on toothpicks and cover the whole thing and make this like Christmas tree out of lint balls. But it's so funny because it lasts, like, it looks beautiful and nobody's allowed to touch. You get like proper slap wrist until like everyone's there at Christmas, and then literally it goes bald within like a couple of days. It's just like amazing.
But again, spot the, you know, the creative teacher
Yes,
in the mix.
This is your mother. I hope she's appreciating the fact that I've given this full viewing, so everybody appreciates that.
Yes, he's hanging in
the
there.
Primary school teacher out of the primary school, but you can't take the primary out of the teacher.
No.
Oh, and it hasn't come up on our comments, but our lovely Paul has commented. Of course, you have to be a little bit crazy to be a teacher. There we go. A little bit. We're only a little bit crazy. It's fine.
Yes, it's absolutely fine. Just things like I like new socks at Christmas. Warm feet.
Yeah,
because I get really.
I said I'd like to be warm.
Pardon?
I said I'm just excited to be warm.
Yeah, I mean, I know that we have spent an awful lot of time recently talking about feet.
I wonder where you were going with that.
I know, and I feel like that maybe one of our New Year's resolutions is to never bring up the OnlyFans show again.
If you're getting to that point in teaching and you're feeling really tired and knackered and stressed and you do want to cheer yourself up, then that is definitely worth going back and listening to. If you just want to giggle.
One of our most favorite shows we've
I mean, I would say it's one of the shows I'm most proud of in my life, but it's spectacular. In terms of, who knew like that little joke message was going to turn into an hour and a half show.
I own it proudly. But on a more wholesome note, no, I'm looking forward to fluffy socks and new pajamas, which I am in desperate need of, because the ones that are currently kind of, I mean, I know no one else sees them because I live alone, but it's time. But because we don't do Christmas presents in my family anymore, I will probably be buying those myself. So I'm looking forward to that. And just kind of switching off. And I think that, again, Christmas holidays are actually a bit longer this time around, because normally I think we mentioned this before, we're all kind of shipped back around the 3rd of January, sort of still kind of a bit bleary from New Year's Eve, feeling like, oh gosh, it's beginning again. But I think most are either the 6th or even a bit later this time.
Yeah, like my son's school doesn't go back. I know they've got inset. My school has inset on the 6th, but my son's school, he doesn't go back till the 8th. I am abandoning the teaching world and joining the real world, and have got to go back on the 2nd, which is going to be a bit of a shock to the system. There was a point where I was chatting to some of the amazing, lovely new people I'm working with, and they're just such a lovely bunch, and they were talking about the days they were working between Christmas and New Year, and I was like, excuse me, what is this horror you talk of? Do you work between Christmas and New Year? People do that? They're like, yeah, but we work from home, so it's not like you don't have to go to the office or anything. I'm like, there's going to be some things that I'm not going to enjoy, and there's some lovely privileges in that, in teaching, in the fact that you have that break. But I do think Christmas is one of those that, because you see family, you are kind of forced more to have that break. And I think that should, if I was to put that on my wish list, that actually teachers are not to do work after whatever time your school shuts. Or maybe like I really want to say that, but the other part of me is like, well, maybe an hour after school, because then you've got an hour to get all your work done. But actually, we're not getting paid for that hour. So actually, if we made it a rule that no teacher did work after your school shut, no work at weekends, no work in the holidays, just inset. I mean, I know we would all be chasing our tail, and it would be absolutely horrible because you wouldn't have anything planned, anything printed, anything done. But actually, it would make them realise that, okay, we need to give them twice. We need to give them more than what they're doing in order for them to be able to effectively function. If we made it like a wish list rule that you couldn't work outside of school teaching hours, then it could potentially change it, because it would be forced to change, because you wouldn't be able to deliver your lessons. I know it'd be one of those. I wouldn't want to put the stress on everybody to be able to do lessons in that short space of time. But also maybe it could make the good and Because there is that thing, like if people are the Christmas holidays, don't work over the Christmas holidays. Don't work over the summer holidays either. The summer beautiful.
No,
Easter, I kind of get.
Give us an inset first day back, or even ship the kids off a day early and have us in for an inset, or even half a day.
I'm a big believer in 2 insets. I think you should have like one where you deliver everything that you want CPD wise and you want the teachers to embed, and then a second day where you actually get time as a teacher to embed that and spend the time doing that and planning and prepping, and it's your own day and you can do what you want with it. And I think every inset should be like, it's not like, because I know sometimes they do it in September, but that's not really, you need like 3 in September and then 2 in all the other ones. So like I do believe in kind of more insets would be on my wish list.
Yeah, more insets, definitely. I think that's, and to be used productively, not to deep clean the school from top to bottom, as I have. And I still remain horrified by it. And institution in question shall remain nameless. But there's me thinking, because it was actually a bridged, most other schools bridged the weekend because it was there was a public holiday on the Thursday. And then most other international schools gave teachers and students the Friday off as well. Oh, no. We were deep cleaning the school. Yeah.
You cleaned it?
Oh, yeah. Teachers deep cleaned their classrooms and the basement. And that was one of our inset days. And I've never quite recovered. Silly me thought we'd be doing workshops, or I don't know, talking about getting a CPD library started or something to that effect. No. So yeah, I beseech you, head teachers, management, SLT, if you're going to have inset days, please, for the love of whatever you choose to believe in, just think what that time's being used for. Make it count, because otherwise you're just going to end up with really quite hacked off staff, if I'm honest. So there's that. And also turn the bloody emails off. Take them off your phone. You just there's a brilliant thing in Gmail. I don't know if you have it in other things, where you can go in, it says manage accounts on this device, and you can turn off. It's just a little whoop, and it's gone. And then when you're ready to turn it back on, just whoop, swipe the little dot across again, turns them back on. But no, whoop, there it is.
I know. I had Carl on with me, who's a life coach for one of my shows. We did 2. We did a back to school in the summer one, and we did a New Year's resolutions kind of one. So if you are feeling a bit of that and you want to know some nice tips in terms of well-being and stuff, do go back through the archives and have a look through that one. But one of the things he said on that show that I then did was amazing, is that if you go onto the health app, the little heart on your phone, you can put in when your bedtime is, and then 45 minutes before your bedtime, it kind of turns off all your notifications. So my phone vibrates and be like, it's ready, time to get ready for bed now. And like basically any messages, phone calls, alerts go, all the little red dots of how many notifications I haven't opened all disappear. So it looks like it's all blank, and like my phone kind of semi goes to sleep ready to prep for me. But I that's quite a nice one, in just kind of making yourself kind of shut down in the evenings. Because really, if somebody's sending me stuff at like 9:15 at night, it's too late. I don't need to know about it at that point. Like that's tomorrow's issue. We don't need to be doing that.
I know people reserve the right, and that, again, there's been email gate. I'm fairly sure there's another one that's done the rounds on X and other platforms numerous times. Of course, you reserve the right. People have different working hours. I accept that, but I also reserve the right to have a 24-hour grace period in replying. So,
and then I need my magic fairy that's going to tell me which ones I've forgotten to reply to.
Yeah, like I just remark everything as unread. But then it kind of sometimes disappears down the pile, doesn't it?
That's the thing. I get too many. I have to go back through pages. That's the thing. Emails are just unnecessary, really. I don't know. Like, I feel like there should be some kind of. I have a little bit of a wish list around uniform. Like, I like the idea of uniform, in the fact that everyone's wearing the same thing. It's relatively easy, it's relatively durable. But I do think it needs a bit of an update. Like, it's not what people wear to the office anymore. Like, actually, kind of, if schools provided or did not provide, they had to have to buy it. But if we did have like nice trousers and nice hoodies that were like nicely beautifully designed, that it doesn't matter, like, do you know what I mean? Like, how often are you going to really get told to tuck your shirt in and things like that? And I don't know. Or like the Airtex t-shirts that are kind of a bit more durable, a bit more breathable. Just kind of, is it really that big a deal if they wear black trainers or black shoes? Like, it's what's comfortable. I don't know. I'm a bit on, like, I had I'm going through the archives tonight. I had my neighbour on, and we talked about uniform, and she's a teacher, and she was like, actually, like, Europe, they don't have uniforms, and they're absolutely fine. The behaviour doesn't like change because they don't wear uniforms. Like, actually, do we need to be in that era that as long as we're not seeing belly buttons or boobs, shoulders, or like butts, then it doesn't really matter. Like, I've got a big thing in my bonnet about like the sexualization of young girls in uniform, and the ties and the short skirts, and it just, and the fact that if you type in girls' school uniform on Google, it would come up with the kind of fancy dress porn costumes as opposed to actual school uniform sites. But if you type in boys' school uniform, it automatically comes up as boys' school uniform. So for me, I would like something really changed. I would like a nice pinafore dress or something, or pinafore, like, I don't know. I just like it to be changed, and in a massive way, specifically the girls' uniform, that it is covered up and that they can feel comfortable and safe, and it's not this thing where, because I think because of the sexualization of it, that's why girls roll up their skirts, because that's what they've been shown is it should look like. And actually, if we take that away, give them nice comfy trousers, or give them nice comfy normal size skirts that aren't going to work,
or
like
options that, you know,
yeah,
because the skirt thing has always kind of wound me up a bit, and I think it's kind of, as the world has sort of moved on and we've kind of moved forward, I do think that you know, a lot of places have cottoned on to the fact that actually there are girls, or indeed, you know, people identify, you know, how they choose to, and should be able to dress accordingly and have uniform options that reflect and allow that. And I increasingly feel that, you know, you need to be well turned out. But I agree with you in that I think the rigidity, or the kind of, you know, it must have the school logo, you know, I think if you had a sort of more open approach to it by saying, okay, the color palette is this, you know, we kind of want to keep it sort of, you know, color neutral. You can wear sort of a black, I mean, if we're going to talk about skirts, you know, you can wear a black knee length skirt, black trousers, but not jeans, and, you know, shoes have to be either, as you say, plain trainers, or, I don't know, not a loafer. What do I mean? A boot.
yeah. And I just think, like, not a shirt, like because the buttons and the pulling them up. Like, I actually had was chatting to a parent, and they said something really interesting about my school that I hadn't thought about. Our school do an arm. So when you put your arm up, all the kids put their arm up, and it's how we silence a room before we then dismiss the groups. But they were always very like, you need to put your arm nice and straight. We're not having T-Rexes. We are going full straight arm. And actually, by the kids doing the full straight arm, a lot of them, their shirts then become untucked, and then they go off with their teacher, and then their teacher tells them off for having untucked shirts. But actually, if they hadn't had to put their hand up, they wouldn't have got an untucked shirt. So it's like this little vicious cycle. And I was like, I'm the teacher, and I tell them to put their arms up high, and I've never clocked that, but I know full well I tell them to tuck their shirt in, but I haven't clocked that that's the reason it's come out. It was really interesting. And I just think, actually, like, when I've dressed, if I do wear a shirt, I'm not tucking it in, even as an adult. Like, it's not fashionable, it's not comfy. Like, I do think there's nothing wrong with a nice plain t-shirt, like, as long as there's no skin on show. Like, that's what these people would be wearing if they were going to work in a shop or in a cafe. They're going to be wearing kind of plain black long sleeve t-shirt and some black trousers. Like, I think that would be, like you said, you could have a logo on the t-shirts if you really desperately wanted to, but that would be much cheaper to provide, much easier to wash, going to cover up stains as well. You're not going to have buttons as they're going through puberty kind of things.
Well, this is it. I mean, I was about to say,
through, or if it rains, you've got all that issue. And I just think, like, it's
time shirts are my worst nightmare. Like, if you're built a certain, forget it.
I just think it's been long enough, and like the boys, like, I get it, they're more likely to wear shirts, they're more likely to wear suits and shirts, that kind of thing. But girls, like, yes, we might wear. We're not, if we're going to wear like suits and stuff, we're generally wearing t-shirts under those suits. That's just what the style is. We're not generally, if you look at the fashion, wearing shirts. And I just think we need to move away from this sexualization of school uniform by completely getting rid of it. But it's somebody being brave enough to change it and do it. But I think it's well overdue. So that would be on my wish list for protecting our young girls. And I think I'm loving this women in male fields thing that's going on at the moment. I've got one of my students doing Guerrilla Girls at the moment, and we're kind of taking all of those and putting them in to some kind of art movement, which has been great fun. But it has made me really think, and it's like, would that be okay if a man, like, if we said that to a man? And it's like, it wouldn't, or they wouldn't have done that if a man said it. And it's just like, actually, is this uniform, now that we look at it, is it efficient? Is it what is okay for young girls to wear? And I don't think it is. And like, I know there's lots of TikToks and stuff about shaming about uniform as well. And it's like, actually, would we kind of say the same things to boys as we do girls in terms of uniform? I don't know. But I just think it's time for a change. So that would be on my wish list.
No, and I think that is a valid one. And we have definitely kind of gone across the spectrum on our wish list here, all sorts of different things. But just to round off, because I'm aware that we are out of time this evening, lots of things to think about. And of course, some of it serious, some of it not so serious. But I think our sort of parting message for this show, again, is to make sure that you look after yourselves this Christmas, that do switch off. And I know it's hard, but it's Christmas, family time, festive time, whatever you're celebrating, whoever you're celebrating with, or just taking that time just to be. You need that recharge. You deserve it. You've earned it. Just try and enjoy the time. Anything from you, Hannah?
No, I just I wish businesses that were really successful would partner with schools so we could have these amazing wish lists kind of come more true.
Smoothies.
I just want a massaging chair in the staff room and I'll be quite happy. But I just it's we need to appreciate teachers more, is what it is. Is like, we work so hard and we just need to make sure we're looking after ourselves, and we do so much on so little. It's nice to dream, isn't it? It's nice to dream.
Yes. And join us again next week, where we'll do the last of our Christmas installments, and we'll let you know throughout the week what that's going to look like as well.
Yeah, I'm excited for this.
Yes, and just as you can see, last mention to our delightful sponsors, we've still got that John Cat discount code, which you can see along the bottom, JCTTR2425. Make use of it while you still can for the teacher in your life, or treating yourself, or getting that CPD library started at school. Please remember Parent Kind, who are the national charity that are really looking forward to, and that's another thing that we sort of alluded to on the wish list this evening, getting schools and their communities back together again, working together, not against each other. I think that's really important. I think that's something that Parent Kind is very much wanting to endorse. And finally, don't forget that Teachers Talk Radio is getting out from behind the screen or behind the microphone and going IRL. So for the older ones amongst you, that means in real life. Gen Z taught me that. Or was it Gen Alpha? This is how old I am these days. So we will be at BET 22nd to 24th of January down at the Excel in London, and then up north in Manchester in March for Teachers Talk Connect, where confirmed speakers include Mr. P and Kate Jones, but there'll be more added to the list, and of course some of your favorite hosts there in the flesh, which is very exciting. So lots happening, lots to be excited about. We will do this all again, Hannah, next week, probably with different headwear.
Yeah, I'll let you know whether I win. Like, I mean, how could we
Yes.
not? How could we not? It's like, I'll be robbed. If I don't win, I'm literally going to be like, I am robbed. Was robbed. Clearly, the child made this all by himself. It was not grandma. It was just a well-developed plan with an art teacher in a primary school for a parent and a grandparent. Like, what more could you possibly want? But yes, if not, I will have other headwear.
I think we need to leave it there before Hannah causes mutiny. So have a great rest of the week, everybody, and we will see you again, same time, same place, next week.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.